This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
When you look at ceilings and you look at what Anthony Richardson's is based on what his arm can be, and it's live, right? And sometimes he's got to harness that thing. There was a third down throw that he had yesterday that was pretty open, you know, guy on a deep crosser, and he just airmails it a little bit.
Richardson is like a carnival act. He's a human yo-yo. He's up and he's down. He's all around. He's the epitome of a feast or famine player at this point.
And then the second drive, first throw, pick six. Okay. And that might be Anthony Richardson's season, where he looks phenomenal 1 second and pretty green the next.
Last year's quarterback class had headlines all over it, from the rookie of the year to even a possible bust. But one quarterback that had huge question marks was Anthony Richardson. Now, sadly, after being injured last season, we had to wait until the preseason this year to see how well he has recovered from his injury. And so far, it's been really inconsistent from Richardson. And I don't want to jump the gun, but after last night's performance, it may be time for the Colts to hover over the panic button and make sure that this is their franchise guy for the future. And in today's video, I'm going to uncover why Anthony Richardson needs to make sure that he develops as a great passer this year, as well as how yesterday's preseason could be a scary preview of what's to come this season if he doesn't figure it out. This is how Anthony Richardson could disappoint the entire NFL. All right, so I think it's safe to say that after this past week of all the rumors that were coming out of training camp with the joint practices between the Bengals and the Colts, as well as the showing last night, there are major question marks about Anthony Richardson's capability to pass the ball and be a consistent passer at that. I mean, since day one and coming into the league, we all know how physically gifted and just a freak of nature this kid was and how powerful he could be. But due to his lack of experience, it also raised some red flags and how good of a passer he could be. I mean, even during the game, I saw a graphic pop up on the screen that said this dude has literally only started 6 games in high school, 13 in college, and obviously 4 games last season due to injury. And then on top of that, a couple hours later, I was on Reddit and I saw this thread too, talking about how people try to compare Anthony Richardson's kind of freak of nature athleticism to Josh Allen, but Josh Allen is more of an outlier who historically had a low completion percentage, but even for Anthony Richardson, he has a lower completion percentage than Josh Allen did in college, as well as also having less college starts than Trey Lance. And honestly, I really think we need to taper our expectations for how good this kid's going to be this year. I mean, generally, this dude is still a rookie quarterback. Like, if you really think about it, the dude played 4 games last year, and that's like not even half of the season. So I mean, he's definitely going to still have those growing pains throughout this year, especially with all the inconsistencies and just kind of trying to learn the offense, as well as trying to just build that relationship with his wide receivers and get on the same page. We even saw some examples of that last night. And I think this tweet pretty much summarizes exactly what we're going to see from Anthony Richardson this year perfectly. Like, we're not really going to get the most consistent quarterback play from Anthony Richardson, but we're going to get some crazy plays, some raw mistakes, and it's going to be a year of learning for Anthony Richardson still. Like, I mean, the last line of this tweet is insane because in week 1, that's going to be his 18th start in a football game since high school, which is crazy. Like, we are literally watching a quarterback grow and develop in front of our eyes. And now, don't get me wrong, in those 4 starts last year, the kid was absolutely electric. He passed for over 500 yards and 3 touchdowns, but where he really stole the show was with his legs rushing for 4 touchdowns and over 100 yards through those 4 games. And I mean, honestly, if he could have stayed healthy last year, a lot of people think he and the Colts could have kept up with Stroud and even challenged inside of the AFC South. But honestly, I guess we'll never really know. And I mean, last night was almost a tale of 3 different drives, because on the first drive, Anthony Richardson looked absolutely methodical on that scripted drive, to where the last 2 drives, it was just really inconsistent. I mean, in the first drive, he went 7 for 8 and had a touchdown to A.D. Mitchell. And honestly, they were really leaning into the RPOs. And I love that about that too, because that's where they really need to use him too, and allow him to almost use his legs a little bit more. Like, I mean, the first ball he threw looked incredible. I mean, it was just on a rope, and I mean, the dude literally placed it only where his guy could catch it. Fast forward to a few plays later, and they run a mesh concept, throw the ball to A.D. Mitchell, and it's a touchdown. It's a beautiful drive, and again, it was a scripted drive that just looked super duper comfortable in the pocket, making his reads. He knew where the ball was going to go. He was on time, and that's really what everybody wants him to look like. But then after that methodical first drive, we really start to see the inconsistency inconsistencies and just kind of the question marks about Anthony Richardson arise. I mean, from that point on, we then have the interception drive where honestly, that interception was just terrible. And I mean, that's the inconsistencies that we're going to see this season though, and just trying to get on the same page with his receivers. And I mean, even in the game, you can see Richardson not yelling at his receiver, but trying to communicate you should have gone inside because that's where he thought he was going to go, and just trying to get on the same page as his receiver. The following drive though, we just see a lot more of just Anthony Richardson almost looking like nervous, like he has a crosser wide open again to AD Mitchell, I believe might be another receiver, and he like floats it way over his head when he should have just honestly put it right on him and just let him keep running right through the ball, because that would have easily been a 20 or 30 yard gain. But I mean, we can't just ignore all the good things that he did do as well. I mean, there was this throw up the seam too where, I mean, it was just on a rope and had to be put only where his guy could catch it, and it looked amazing. Like, those are the flashes we're going to see, but at the same time, it's going to come at the expense of really not knowing or just really being inconsistent for the rest of the game. And I think what kind of makes this situation just a little bit scarier too is during training camp this week too, even the Bengals were kind of mocking how bad of a passer Anthony Richardson was, and even made some headlines this week. Like, I mean, in these tweets right here, we have defensive backs of the Bengals saying exactly what everybody else is saying in their mind when they were watching the game last night when he made those bad passes and just interception too, was really, is this all that guy does is run, or he's just throwing to spots, he doesn't see his receivers? And Geno Stone is what he said. And it really makes you wonder and kind of just hope that they can develop Anthony Richardson into a just better passer and use that freak athleticism to make him a better quarterback this year.
When it comes to people just talking, man, that don't really faze me much, because people have been talking pretty much my whole life. So it's like, okay, just add fuel to the fire. You know, I'm just gonna do me, just keep doing me no matter what anybody else say. So I'm not really worried about it.
I mean, as we reflect on this game too, I really do think that for some reason, the Colts are almost trying to like be determined to prove that Anthony Richardson is a good passer. And they really did that on the first drive and stuck with RPOs, and he was in a rhythm. But then after that, they just tried doing too much. And again, they were really just trying to prove that he's a passer, and they really need to stick with what he's good at and allow him to run the ball, make those RPOs, and stick with those things right there. Like, I mean, I know we talk about how we need to make sure he stays healthy because of how injury prone he does seem, but at the same time, I really think they need to lean into what he is good at in running the ball, RPOs, read options, things of that nature. I mean, the dude is 250 pounds and can run the ball very, very well. They need to lean into that a little bit more, and I know it's just preseason, but I think during the regular season, if they can lean into that a little bit more, then the Colts are going to be a scary team, and we're going to see those glimpses of what we saw last year. Another thing from last night's game that I don't really know if I buy into much right now is what Kirk Herbstreit was saying, and I'm going to play the clip right here of how if this team is just kind of up and down all season, if they're really going to maybe even give the reins over to Joe Flacco, if Anthony Richardson can't develop and be that quarterback that they want him to be. But again, Anthony Richardson is basically a rookie quarterback. Like, they need to give this kid a little bit more time before they just start taking everything away from him.
Let me ask you something here. If you're Shane Steichen, best case scenario, Anthony Richardson, he lives up to what we all hope he can do. Running, throwing, he's healthy. This team has a great year, and he's a superstar, right? What if he struggles? What if he has a good drive or a good game and then a bad game, a good game and a bad game? He's a pick. Everybody's kind of expecting him to be the guy. You got a guy like Joe Flacco with the roster they have. I just wonder how you handle that if it goes down that path, if you're Shane Steichen, because you know what you're going to get in Joe Flacco.
Yeah, that's Evan Hall. You know, I would think you can feel it inside the team at that point, too. What are the guys thinking? You know, do we make the change here? What do we do? Yeah.
Yeah, hey,
I think you read the room.
Yeah.
Is what I would do.
Yeah. Being to see Anthony Richardson be this guy that can run this offense that Jalen Hurts ran 2 years ago in Philly, and he's running zone read and he's making plays. But if it's inconsistent, how long do you go until you start to maybe have that kind of discussion?
Well, it's almost like, you know, what you do with any rookie quarterback. He's not a rookie, but in effect, he only played 4 games last year.
Yeah.
And he has very little experience.
The reality is the roster around the quarterback spot, this is a playoff team.
And now look, I really want Richardson to be good this year, but again, I mean, Kirk Herbstreit does bring up some good points there, and I don't think it's going to happen, but I definitely could also see it happening if he does struggle this year, especially with him being just so raw. Like in that tweet I showed earlier, the dude has only started 18 games, but he's a freak of nature that will hopefully be able to make those plays and develop along the way. And look, I think the biggest factor, and everybody knows it, on how this kid is going to develop is going to be in the hands of Shane Steichen. With what we've seen him been able to do with Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert, everybody is hoping that he can do the same thing now with Anthony Richardson and this freak of nature. Are you looking for a new book this football season? BetUS is the answer. They have the fastest and easiest payouts in the industry, along with 24/7 personalized service 365 days a year. Not only that, but they have live wagering on all major games, so if you see something mid-game and want to make a wager on it, you can. And the best part is you get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. And now look, you guys know I had to come through for you, so use my sign up link in the description or pinned comment and get a sign up bonus of 125% up to $2,000. Again, thank you to BetUS for sponsoring today's video, but for now, let's hop back into it. As we all know, he was the offensive coordinator of the Chargers in 2020 and guided Justin Herbert to rookie records for completions and passing touchdowns, as well as the Chargers having the 4th fewest turnovers in the NFL that year. On top of that, in 2021 and 2022, he was a part of the Eagles coaching staff and called plays for the NFL's #3 scoring offense in 2022. As we all know, he helped develop Jalen Hurts into one of the NFL's top quarterbacks, and he also coordinated an offense with 2 1,000-yard receivers in Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown, as well as a 1,200-yard rusher in Miles Sanders. And as we look at the team that he has on his hands now, this is going to be a year where, again, he has another quarterback with similar talent to Jalen Hurts and Herb. Like, I mean, if this dude can make or at least replicate those seasons that he did with those 2 quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson should be fine. Like, I mean, as we look at their roster, they have got playoff talent all around the quarterback spot in Jonathan Taylor, a rookie A.D. Mitchell, and Michael Pittman Jr. as well. Like, I mean, this is a solid 9-win team and is a team that for sure could make and should make the playoffs, in my opinion. Like, there is no reason for this team to not make the playoffs besides maybe the Texans just completely running away with the division. And as I mentioned earlier, they really need to lean into that run game. I mean, they have the PFF graded 3rd best line in the league, as well as Jonathan Taylor in the backfield too. Like, with Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, that is going to put a tremendous amount of stress on any defensive coordinator and should open up running lanes for either one of those guys if they are sticking to the read options, RPOs, things of that nature. They really need to lean into that this year, I think. But I mean, as we look at their schedule too, it is pretty grueling at the beginning of it, and even in that back stretch too. I mean, they've got to open up the season with the Houston Texans coming to town, and then followed up with the Packers, and even a scrappy Bears team after that. After that, though, they do get a little bit of a break, hopefully with the Steelers, Jaguars, and Titans, but then again, they go on a little bit of a stretch with Miami and the Houston Texans back-to-back weeks. But then again, you have that grueling stretch of Buffalo, the Jets, and the Lions all back to back to back. So I mean, nonetheless, it's going to be a tough schedule that they do have to play. But again, this is a playoff caliber team, and I expect nothing less from the Indianapolis Colts this year. But I want to know what you guys think. How good will Anthony Richardson and the Colts be this year? Personally, for me, as I said before, I want this kid to be good. I don't know if he's going to be Josh Allen of sorts, because again, Josh Allen seems to be like the outlier of just freaks of nature, but he does have that comp a little bit with the arm size, the raw talent. Like, it's all there. And I know I compared Bo Nix to kind of Josh Allen as well, but Anthony Richardson is more of that Josh Allen build, and even Cam Newton type of build with the legs, the capability to run, and the arm talent. Like, for sure, Anthony Richardson should be a stud like those guys. But again, it's technically, this is really his like rookie season all over again, because he got 4 games last year. He didn't get many reps. Like, he had to sit. He had a shoulder injury. He couldn't throw the ball. So I think really this year is going to be that year. They really need to just let this kid grow and learn. He may have a development path of like Jordan Love, where again, he starts off really slow in the first half of the season and then picks up in the back half of the season and just kind of learns the NFL as he plays more. But as always, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And as always, if you guys have not, make sure that you guys like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate all of you guys showing love on the channel. We are going to be taking this off and hopefully to another level this year now that the NFL season is back. And as always, thank you BetUS for sponsoring this video. And as always, I will catch you guys in the next one.